As we move forward with new clean energy technologies, as the Public Utilities Commission and county leaders and state legislative leaders and all of us in this room move forward, we need to understand that there are a lot of people who don't live and breathe clean energy. And what they want is reliable energy, and they want affordable energy. And so as we move forward on these ambitious goals, which I've been committed to for a very, very long time, we have to understand that there are folks who just can't afford current energy prices.
Governor Abercrombie made him the point person for the administration on all energy issues. But now he is U.S. Senator Brian Schatz, and he's taken his expertise to the national level with an assignment to the U.S. Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources. Aloha, and thanks for joining us for this edition of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. I'm Terry Okita. Tonight, we'll focus on leadership, the kind of strong, visionary leadership that can bring about financial relief from the cost of electricity and gasoline for Hawaii's ratepayers and businesses. The kind of leadership that will take us in a new direction towards energy independence. We'll start with the new energy-focused policy team in the state legislature. What is their strategy for this 2013 legislative session? Senator Mike Gabbard and Representative Chris Lee told us there are 3 key bills. The future of Hawaii's solar tax credit, on-bill financing that offers low-interest loans for those who currently can't afford to install photovoltaic, and the third bill would open up access to solar for renters.
There's about 193,000 rental units. This would make it so that the landlord would be able to actually sell electricity to the tenants. And then on commercial properties, for example, in a shopping center, the stores would be able to get PV up on in their shopping center.
Is it difficult for you guys to convince other lawmakers about doing this?
Like anything else, herding cats, quite frankly. But I think all of us are here for the right reason. And everybody is in agreement that we need to get off our dependence on imported fuel. We've come the first couple of steps. We've more than doubled our energy portfolio over the last decade or so in terms of renewable energy. Now PV itself is doubling year in and year out. And this is one of the biggest sectors that's going to be a boon for our economy, and it's going to pay dividends down the road. So what we want to do is really build on top of that.
What is their strategy for this session?
This was actually Chris's idea. Why don't we start at the very beginning? Instead of waiting until conference at the very end of the session in late April, where it's been through the House, it's been through the Senate, all these different amendments, and then there's what we describe as kabuki theater in conference. Let's do this up front. Have the conversation with all the stakeholders, and let's see if we can decide this. Meet with the money committees and see if we can decide this early on. So take all the drama out of it and then get something done. So yeah, we're excited about this.
The one thing we have going for us is that everybody understands and feels what it is to pay out of your pocket for energy that's getting more and more expensive each and every day. And so that's the one thing we've really got that's driving a lot of the political pressure in the right direction. I think it's been a controversial issue going back a couple of years now, and the problem we've had is that there's no certainty as to what's coming. So for the industry, if you're trying to come up with things to sell, packages, if you're a home buyer or a homeowner and you want to get some renewable on your roof, you need to be able to plan it out, price it out, understand what the credits are going to be like, and all of this needs to come together into a plan that's going to be several years out.
It doesn't take too much convincing. This should be the right thing to do. And that what we found in the working group is that the industry, the solar industry as well as the wind industry, they understand that business is booming and eventually these tax credits are going to go away. And so that's why building a consensus, we're stepping down the tax credits on the residential and commercial side. And then we've actually on the utility scale, the big wind and big solar projects, we've actually changed that into a production tax credit, which also makes it, as Chris was saying, there's more certainty for those who want to invest instead of this thing of just everything kind of being up in the air.
This year, Hawaii hit a new record. 1 million registered vehicles are on the road in our state today. Should we be disappointed that fewer than 2,000 of these are EVs or electric vehicles?
Being an owner of a Nissan Leaf for the last almost 2 years now, I encourage all of my constituents. I have a monthly community meeting where we talk story about obviously energy issues, and I encourage them to take a test drive, and I'm saving $250 a month in gas. We're actually in the top 10 in the entire country in EV vehicles per capita, and we're number 1 in the country in charging stations installed. So the framework, the infrastructure is there.
That doesn't seem like very much.
I think you're seeing for the first time major brands and major long-time car makes come out with electric versions. You know, the Leaf was one of the first ones that really brought this to a mass market. You know, I really got to commend Mike because he was one of the first ones to get his car. I still drive a gas guzzler, which I've got to change, but I can't quite afford it just yet. And I think that's what a lot of folks, particularly who are coming out of this recession struggling, are still trying to figure out how to do. And in the next few years, I expect that as the economy recovers and as more and more options become available, you're going to see a massive transition begin to happen. I think there's always going to be folks who have a piece of the pie that they don't want changed. And we're going to never be able to make everybody happy, but if we can do our jobs the best we can and look out for the interests of the people and the future of Hawaii and get us off of dependency on expensive energy and to a more renewable, cleaner future, I think that's the end game, and I think we're willing to accept criticism for that.
As long as we are respectful and civil in our discussions and giving everybody an opportunity to sit at the table and talk story, and then we may or may not agree on everything, but finding that commonality, right? And that commonality is, this is ridiculous. Let's quit buying all that foreign oil and let's start using these clean renewables that are here in Hawaii.
Is there room for compromising?
I don't think any community or any one group is homogenous. You have folks who will adamantly oppose something and never move off of that position. They're not willing to compromise, but often there are folks who are. And I think if you can reach out to the extent that you can and engage people, you're always going to come out with a better result.
When we come back, we'll hear from two mayors about leadership on the county level. Please stay with us.
Kauai, the landscape here is really open to more ag, and that's where we're at right now. What opportunities do we have on our island in regards to agriculture, whether it be food crops or energy or other types of renewables such as photovoltaic farms? We've been, from the day one, looking at ways to keep the character and the charm of our island and the cultural side and the plantation setting, because that's why people come to visit Kauai, and at the same time find every way possible to connect and develop partnerships, such as KIUC, who is a cooperative here, owned by the people, and having a relationship with the cooperative in the decisions we got to make.
I mean, right now we're at 32%, maybe moving to 35% renewable energy. I mean, and with an array of a portfolio that would be admired anywhere else in the country, if not the world. And our responsibility is to expand that, right? But people who live in a community that's impacted by that expansion want to know that there's a benefit.
In previous shows, we heard from Mayor Carvalho from Kauai and Mayor Kinoe from Hawaii Island. Tonight, we talked to Maui County Mayor Alan Arakawa and the new mayor of Honolulu, Kirk Caldwell. Linking these two counties could be the first installment of an undersea cable that provides a two-way transfer of energy between islands. As the most populated county in the state, the demand for energy is on Oahu, an island with limited space and resources for supporting its own needs through renewable energy. Maui County's world-class wind and high solar penetration is only limited by how much the local utility can accept and integrate on its grid.
Part of the bad rap, I think, is because 80% of the state population lives on this island. So we're the market, we consume vast amounts of energy. And one of the biggest stories that's been ongoing for a long time now is our H-Power system. Started in 1985. It's the first commercial project in the world that was using garbage to generate energy. A very large system, right? There are a lot of pilot projects, but the first very large commercial project. It's been ongoing since, and the good news is last January, we started our third boiler. That is going to save about $48 million worth of oil imports last year. We're burning rubbish, and it's not going into our landfill, reducing the need for a landfill. And this third boiler coming online means about 90% of all the garbage generated on this island now is either recycled or burned.
We need to be able to cut costs. And in order to economize, one of the best ways for us to do is to go to alternative energies. So we have programs right now that are putting in photovoltaic systems in almost all of our major energy-using county facilities. Most of our wastewater plants, fire departments, police stations, we're starting to put in a lot of photovoltaic. By the time we're done, almost every major facility that the county owns is going to have photovoltaics.
This is a good example. This is the third project putting photovoltaics on large municipal properties where we generate sufficient amounts of energy savings to make it worthwhile. The first system was just across the way at the same site. The second one is out at the bus facility in Pearl City. There's other facilities around this county that have spaces like this, large parking areas or large roof areas, that we're going to be looking to put more photovoltaics.
We've recognized that we have to be able to work with our landfill. So we've put out an RFP. We had over 160 companies bid for going from trash to energy. And we were looking at, we narrowed it down to 2 companies. But we realized we have to do something with our trash, and we have to find ways to cut our costs.
Both mayors say they look for ways to work with the private sector to help reduce the cost of government and facilitate new energy partnerships. And both men believe a statewide grid connecting our islands with an undersea cable is key to our security and energy future.
I do think that the mayors need to team up with the governor on addressing the deep seawater cable. It's not just a state issue, it's a county issue. Right now, each island is on its own for its electrical grid. If a huge hurricane hits any other island or this island, we can't draw electricity from anywhere else. And as you know, on the mainland, when New York gets a blackout, they're pulling electricity from Canada.
And of course, Honolulu's mayor envisions a day when the electricity that powers the rail system is generated by
photovoltaic, from wind. I think we're gonna have biomass. And I think someday we're gonna see electrical 50% alternative energy, and our rail system will be run on that.
When you look across the state and you realize we have enough energy that we can produce here to cover the entire state and some, you have to realize that this economic development is one of the biggest engines that we can possibly develop in the near future. We need to look to some of the foreign countries to see how they're changing things. There are examples worldwide. We just have to get out of our little box. We have to, once in a while, start thinking practically instead of politically and make the hard decisions. The hard decisions are, yes, we all love Hawai'i Electric Company. They have done a great job for us for over a century. Maybe the time has come for us to start looking at remodeling Hawai'i Electric Company and getting them to go from a power production to a power management company. Maybe that's the best model that needs to happen. But we need to get all of the state agencies in line. We have to be there as leaders politically to make these shifts. It can be done. It needs to be done for our community.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative is not a plan. It's a vision of where we want to go, and it was some identification of what the potential of different resources were, but it wasn't a plan on how to get there. When people ask me, I say HCI is a vision, and our job now is to see how close we can get to the vision. I mean, that's, I can do that. I'm at the university. I'm, a little bit independent, but we need the plan to push that forward, and then change the vision when it's appropriate, and not just live with what we have if it's not right.
Rick Rocheleau is the director of the Hawaii Natural Energy Institute, an organized research unit of the School of Ocean and Earth Science and Technology at the University of Hawaii, Manoa. The institute performs research, conducts testing and evaluation, and manages public-private partnerships across a broad range of renewable technologies, all part of getting to the state's goal for Hawaii's independence from fossil fuel. Rocheleau and his colleagues have no political or commercial interest in any particular technology or policy. Their broad range of expertise is invaluable to a successful energy outcome for our state. And that's why Rocheleau and his team have to deal with what's missing from the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative: real-life details.
You say, okay, here's where I want to be in 20 or 30 years, but it's not straight line, and you could never go down those straight lines because things that you do are going to impact other things. Having the resources is a good first step. But at that point then, in addition to the politics and the cultural issues, there's land use issues, there's the cost issues, there's the competing uses issue. So a whole bunch of things that haven't been addressed that need to be addressed for it to be a plan.
In our last segment, Mayor Arakawa mentioned changing the Hawaiian Electric model from power production to power distribution. Is HECO's grid system an obstacle?
Well, it is one of the challenges, but it's also, I think in general, the U.S. has an old grid system, and it's how do you bring it up and modernize it? And you hear a lot about storage as the solution, and we'll be able to put renewables on. Smart grids has really been the buzzword for the last year. It's how do you integrate all these tools together and make them work that really needs to be accomplished. So, you know, the fact that it's a little bit old maybe can work to our favor because they need to upgrade it as the renewables come on, and it's a lot of wind, a lot of solar coming in. They have to be changing the grid. The utility is committed to upgrading it. So it provides an opportunity to get projects in and work with them on the utility and the grid system to do it.
We asked Rochelo for an assessment of different technologies. Let's start with wind and solar.
Well, when you look at the operation of the grid, the renewables that really are most cost effective today and can be really found on any island is wind and solar. It's very intermittent. It means it goes up and down in an uncontrollable fashion. In response to that, the utility has to be able to move their generating systems up and down.
Geothermal.
Geothermal is a great baseload power. The problem is geothermal isn't where the population is. So we have a real issue of getting it to Oahu from the Big Island. There are cultural issues, there are political issues, but there are also technical issues and probably risk issues because it's a seismically active island. And so you also have to have some concern about if you have too much committed to one place like that and bring it to Oahu, what would happen?
Ocean thermal energy conversion, or OTEC.
Something like OTEC that people claim could be a great baseload power, but no one's really demonstrated or proven the technology at the scale that it needs to be done for the utility to invest in it at this time. So possibly in the future, but not now.
Biofuels.
My opinion is it's going to be very difficult to cultivate and grow the amount of crops that we need to produce it internally. If it's on the open market, that provides a potential solution, but it is another imported fuel.
And what about liquefied natural gas for Hawaii?
You get a lot of different stories on LNG. There are environmental issues with fracking on the mainland. There's some uncertainty about the market. I don't think we have all the questions answered on it yet, but in my opinion, we need to get the answers to those questions because it is an ultimate potential piece of the solution. We need that baseload power, we need that dispatchable power. If LNG is more stable pricing and we have greater energy security with it, I think it needs to be looked at. Technology will keep changing, so you have to keep in mind what the future might be. But we definitely need to map out what's the right strategy for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I mean, new technologies don't happen overnight, so we know what works now. I mean, it's wind, it's solar, and it's geothermal. Biofuels, we're kind of at a crossroads that we need a very good plan going forward. We really do have an opportunity to try to work with the utility and the PUC. It's a small state, so everybody, you know, whether they agree, we can at least communicate with each other, and I think the ability to integrate all these new solutions in is really unique here in Hawaii. And so I'm hopeful we'll continue to move forward. And while I think realistic that it might be a little slower than some of the politicians would hope, I think we're going to continue to make good progress.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back. During the past 2 years, the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii News Now have brought you 10 programs in this series, Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. Each show focused on a different and very critical link to Hawaii's energy independence. We heard from all kinds of people, and we do know this: the one thing every one of us can do today that would contribute towards the solution is really quite simple. Cut back consumption, reduce those kilowatt hours on your electric bill, take public transportation, or look into purchasing an EV or hybrid automobile. Another thing we've learned is that while Hawaii is the most oil-dependent state in our country, we also have the natural resources to become a renewable energy model for the rest of the world. Each of these 10 shows can be found on the forum's website. We will continue to follow our state's progress with its energy goals, and we hope to be back in the near future with updates on progress and new developments. On behalf of the Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii News Now, thank you so much for watching. It's been our pleasure to bring you this series. I'm Terry Okita. Aloha.
The sun rose this morning, bringing a new day. What becomes of this day is in the hands of all of us. On this day, as Brian indicated, we begin our work, creating sustainable economies, investing in our people, building strong communities. Yes, we'll face challenges, but we'll not let these become excuses. Instead, our driving message will be, make it happen, and make it happen by working together. When we consider long-term financial stability and talk about controlling our own destiny, energy is at the top of the list. 2 weeks ago today, Tesoro Corporation announced it would be closing its refinery here in Hawaii. That means about 200 people will soon be out of work. Our Department of Labor and Industrial Relations stands ready to assist with job assistance for those who will need it. But it also means that Hawaii has only one refinery to process oil to meet our state's energy needs, and we will be importing the rest of our fuel. We face greater exposure to the events occurring elsewhere in the world that affect our fuel pipeline, whether in the Middle East, Asia, on the seas, or at mainland refineries and ports. Reducing our dependence on imported oil will take an equal commitment from all of us. Our new energy future, one that allows Hawaii to utilize and rely upon its fortunate circumstances and geography for renewable energy, is a long but necessary journey